I am embarking on getting my second Caribbean citizenship by investment passport. And some of you might ask, why are you doing that? Is that sufficient diversification? What are the benefits of having a second Caribbean passport? And today I'm going to answer all your questions. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson. This is Nomad Capitalist, where we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. That includes having at least one second citizenship to make sure you have options no matter what happens with your finances, with your freedom, with your lifestyle. You want to have options. And a number of years ago, I obtained citizenship by investment in St. Lucia, one of the 5 Caribbean countries that currently does that. My reasons being were I was single, I was doing well, but not as well as I am today. And St. Lucia had recently made some changes to their program where they had a pretty competitive donation program, the most affordable, or one of the most affordable for a single person. I was legally single at the time. And I thought it's a beautiful country. The program, they're not doing a huge volume compared to some of the other islands. I thought, okay, this is a little bit more bespoke. The price is right. And to the extent that St. Lucia, certainly the passport has not added as many new travel countries as some of its competitors in the region, as you might call them. At the time, it was still not the strongest passport in the region, but Antigua and St. Kitts had by then lost visa-free access to Canada, so they were relatively similar, but the holes that St. Lucia had in terms of its visa-free travel actually complemented passports that I already had. And so if you were just to go ahead and say, okay, which is the best passport to get on its own, I might not have chosen St. Lucia, but as I already had others, I said, okay, well, I already have this and this for travel, and so that's different. So what I'm doing now is I am embarking the process of obtaining citizenship in Antigua and Barbuda, and it's a different program, it's a different time, and it's a different circumstance in my life, and this is not a recommendation to you to become a citizen of St. Lucia or of Antigua. Some have watched me, and I've heard people call me, and they said, hey, Andrew, I got a St. Lucia citizenship, and it's because of you, and now I want you to help me with the rest. And I said, well, maybe for you, I would have suggested something else. So don't copy what I'm doing. But I do this to a certain extent. I've talked in another episode about why I have so many passports, and there's both strategic reasons, and there's very deeply human reasons for that. But on a business level, for me, this is interesting to do research and development. It's a way to work direct with my team and to test their skills. I have personally done very little work in terms of collecting documents because my team has a lot of my stuff. But this is an R&D project for me. This is what I do. This is my business. This is my jam. And I enjoy it. When people ask, why do you have these passports? Why do you have all these passports? I enjoy it. Some people collect stamps. Some people collect art. I feel that it's nice to be covered by having multiple citizenships. It opens up a lot of different opportunities. And so if someone is thinking, well, why do you want a second Caribbean passport? You may have heard of CARICOM, the Caribbean community. You have certain rights if you're a member of one of the CARICOM countries, as all the 5 Caribbean citizenship countries are a member of. But there are some restrictions on that. What's perhaps a better barometer is the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. There are 6, the 5 that are in St. Vincent, where potentially they may be in the future. And so you essentially can just move between these rather freely. And so if you're St. Lucian, you want to go and basically be in Antigua, you could do that. St. Lucia is not a tax-free country. Antigua does have no personal income tax. St. Kitts has no personal income tax or corporate income tax. And so theoretically, you could just go to that country and you could put in your amount of time and you could just say, hey, I'm a taxpayer in St. Kitts using your OECS passport. However, what we've seen in recent years is that freedom of movement can be curtailed. You see certain countries in Europe that have been closed, and you're supposed to have this freedom of movement, and to a large extent that still exists, but there have been restrictions placed on that. Certainly that could be ended. And what I look at Antigua as is I say, okay, this is a strong passport. It is among the strongest in the Caribbean. I think St. Kitts adds a couple extra countries, but Antigua is pretty competitive. And so Antigua complements a lot of the visa-free travel that I already have. It reinforces it. And so it's adding on to where, hey, if some country I want to go to ever loses visa-free travel, I've got a redundancy. We've seen the pandemic, we talked at Nomad Capitalist Live about how all 5 Caribbean countries have visa-free travel to South Korea. Yet only one country at the time had visa-free access to South Korea. And so for people who were doing business in Asia, in developed Asia, that access to South Korea was good. It was good to have not only a passport that had the access, but that was actually on the nice list. And so I think that as the world has been turned upside down, having redundancies is very important. Having multiple passports with visa-free travel makes sure that when you need to go somewhere, for me, it's for business, it's for research, it could be for speaking, it could be for working with someone directly. I recently went down to Uruguay, and Uruguay was closed for a long time, and having multiple passports would have come in handy, and having it came in handy just in case. So that's one thing. Antigua having no personal income tax and allowing for tax planning on other kinds of income tax, I think is a positive thing. I think that as the world changes, having a country that is not only tax-free, but that has a certain level of commitment to being tax-free. I guess a lot of tax-free countries, they feel proud of that. But I think that Antigua, seeing that they've gone just in recent years to not having a personal income tax, that's a step in the right direction. Momentum to me is very important. Many Western countries, the momentum is, you're a jerk for having so much money. Why don't you pay us even more? Your 40% is not enough. They're saying, you know what, we're cool. Stop paying that personal income tax, we'll be fine. So not only is the momentum going in the right direction, but I think having tax-free access is important. I'm a resident in the UAE. Am I resident anywhere else tax-free? I don't know. But I think that having more than a residence, a citizenship is very powerful. Certainly laws can change. But I think that when the momentum is going in the right direction, that's less likely to happen. And so if you're a citizen, you can go and live there. And so for any of the talk of, we're going to impose some kind of global minimum tax on people in the future, I think that having a substantial connection to a country like Antigua, if they so choose to say, hey, if you actually live here, we won't tax you, that's not a bad thing to have. And it's giving you a higher level of security than, let's say, a Cayman Islands. Or a UAE, where residents, I think you can trust them to keep that, but it's a higher level, it's a higher standard where you are a citizen. So not only can you travel as a citizen in a country that has a good passport that builds in redundancies, but you can also be a citizen of a tax-free country. I also think that there are opportunities. I mean, some of these smaller countries, you can go, and if you want to be involved in the government, if you want to go and influence policy, if you want to go and do something, I think that you have an easier opportunity in some of these places to go and have a positive impact if you want to get involved in that kind of thing. You have more of a direct line to people who can be influential. I mean, I grew up in the United States. You have no say what happens in the United States. I remember I had a business acquaintance when I was in my early 20s who he got invited with the company that he was working with, the insurance company, to go and meet the congressman. It's like, ooh, you're going to meet the congressman. You go to a lot of smaller countries. I mean, you can really work directly on things. And so if you want to make a difference, I think that being a citizen could be a positive thing. Not just about Antigua in particular, but about any country that is more nimble. Having that citizenship could potentially be a way that you can make a difference. What I'm also interested in is the opportunity for Antigua, which has a great pricing structure for folks who are willing to make a donation, who have a family. Now, I remember a couple years ago when Antigua rolled out this kind of 4 for the price of 1 structure, $130,000 when you count the processing fee. I posted on social media, half jokingly, should I be upset that I'm not married and have kids because I'd like to really take advantage of this. This is a good deal because you've got a country that, by the way, separately is, I think, a very livable country. You've got people who take their boats there. You've got a bit more going on. I think St. Lucia is a beautiful country. I think for living, perhaps a country like Antigua is where more people are. But in terms of living, I will be able to add on not only a spouse, but any kind of dependent parents or parents-in-law. So it's an opportunity for having a family to say, hey, you know what? I'd like parents-in-law to be able to come along, and maybe my wife and I are going to go to certain countries where they can't go right now, and so we'd like them to come along and hang out as we grow as a family. And so getting them all on the same page is a good thing, and so that's a good opportunity. And here's my perspective: having more options, having the ability to travel on a different passport. By the way, there's nothing wrong with saying I'm gonna have a passport, just keep it at the safe, just keep it on the shelf. I may not use it, but if I'm ever going to go to that country, I might use it. I'm going to have the option to go to that country, again, higher than a tourist, higher than a resident, higher than anything else. That's my country for life. Now, in the case of the Caribbean, you're not necessarily going to be able to pass it on to your kids just by virtue of giving birth to them. But for your current family, it's a great opportunity. I also think that, for all of what you're getting, and for me, just kind of building on my redundancies and doing this so I can share the process with you and stay connected with the process. When you give money to these countries, there may be petty squabbles in some of these countries as to how the money is spent between the different parties in power. But I can tell you, I think the money is used a lot more efficiently in terms of building low-income housing, building roads, improving the country for people who need it. When you look at some of these countries in the Caribbean, they don't have the banks they used to have. Certainly these kind of programs, I think if you want to get one of these programs, now's the time to do it. Over time, there may be some new barriers or restrictions or physical presence or some kind of things imposed by other powers to say, hey, if you want to get citizenship by investment 5 years ago, it may be, or 5 years from now, it may be a little bit more difficult. But for me, for all the talk of why these programs shouldn't be allowed by some fringe people in politics and other places, for the same people who shut down their banks, same people who shut down some of the offshore centers in these locations. You know what? Your money actually does something for the country. It's not quite the same as a charity. I think obviously charity perhaps is more efficient than any government. But for what you're getting, I think that you can feel good to a certain extent that it's not like giving $130,000 to a country where that buys like the tip of a missile or something, and it's gone in 5 seconds. This money is actually being put to use, and so that's a nice add-on. But for me, securing my ability to go to more countries, even if they're part of freedom of movement schemes, securing the ability to go somewhere that does believe that you should be able to keep your own money, that does give you the chance to have a voice, that does enhance your travel privileges and act as a redundancy, and that allows you to bring your family for a very comparable price. For me, those are all good reasons why having, for me, a second Caribbean citizenship is valuable. I'm saying this as someone who already has other citizenships outside of the Caribbean. I did have a guy come to me once and someone had sold him getting multiple citizenships in the Caribbean just to see which one was faster. Okay. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. That seems like a good sales job. But, kind of adding this on later in the game, having other passports as part of the ongoing passport portfolio, I think is valuable. And I'd love to hear your comments below. Don't stop now. We've got well over 1,000 more videos here on YouTube for you to watch and learn how to go where you're treated best. And if you want to work with Nomad Capitalist personally, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, learn about our unique, tried and true process, garnered over years of experience, and learn how you can become our client.